We've always believed that the fridge keeps our food safe, but for older adults, it might actually do the opposite. It may sound extreme, but refrigerating certain common foods can make them dangerous for the brain, for the guts, and even for the heart of anyone over 50. And science backs this up. As we age, our immune system naturally weakens, and that completely changes how the body handles certain toxins. In other words, what looks like a harmless piece of die-old bread, a tomato forgotten in the crisper drawer, or a small container of leftover rice from last week could actually be harboring invisible mold, neurotoxins, or even carcinogens. And the worst part, no smell, no taste, and no visible warning signs. According to the CDC, 1 in 6 Americans experiences foodborne illness every year, and older adults are the most affected. That's because poorly refrigerated or improperly stored food doesn't just lose nutrients, it turns into a breeding ground for fungi, bacteria, and toxic chemical reactions. But don't worry, I'm going to show you the 9 most dangerous foods to store in your fridge, and no, 3 will really surprise you. It seems harmless, it's in almost every household. But when eaten after being refrigerated for days, it can cause serious brain issues like neural inflammation and even an increased risk of Alzheimer's. And the best part? Along with these invisible danger alerts, I'll explain how to properly store each of these foods in simple, safe, and natural ways. You'll learn small changes that can protect you from infections, stomach pain, memory loss, weakened immunity, and even silent inflammation. These tips aren't just online guesses. They're backed by scientific studies, tested by health professionals, and confirmed by doctors who care for seniors every day. So if you're tired of that constant fatigue, strange aches and pains, or just want to make sure your food is helping, not harming your health, stick with me until the end. And hey, if you care about your health and want to keep getting vital information that your doctor might not have time to explain, make sure to subscribe to this channel now. It not only helps more people find this content, but it also keeps you up to date on the best habits for healthy, energized, independent aging. All right, let's dive in. Because food number 9 might be something you put in your fridge just yesterday. Food number 9. Tomatoes. Most people don't realize this, but when you store tomatoes in the fridge, they start to change, and not for the better. And we're not just talking about the change in texture or the loss of flavor. We're talking about chemical reactions that can increase toxic compounds, directly affecting your digestion and even your immune system. Tomatoes are one of the most widely consumed foods in the world. But few people know they contain compounds called glycoalkaloids, like tomatine. Under normal conditions, the body can handle these just fine. But when tomatoes are stored at cold temperatures, like in the fridge, it causes an enzymatic imbalance. That leads to a rise in these compounds, making them more active, especially if the tomato is already overripe. And who's most affected by this? Older adults. That's because the digestive system becomes more sensitive over time. And the gut barrier, your body's natural defense, just isn't as strong as it once was. The result? More inflammation, more bloating, and in some cases, even allergic reactions. On top of that, studies show that cold temperatures break down the tomato's cell membranes, releasing enzymes that trigger oxidation. What was once an anti-inflammatory food can end up contributing to oxidative stress. If you usually store tomatoes in the lower part of the fridge, where it's even colder, heads up. This could be sabotaging your efforts to maintain a healthy diet. Here's a practical tip. Keep tomatoes in a cool, dry place outside the refrigerator. A fruit basket or a well-ventilated box works just fine. And eat them while they're still firm. That's how you preserve the flavor. Antioxidants, and avoid turning your tomato into a silent little villain. Now, here's what really matters. What happens if you keep refrigerating tomatoes? Over time, this habit can impair your digestion, worsen chronic inflammation, and even interfere with your ability to absorb nutrients like lycopene, a natural protector against heart and brain diseases. And let's be honest, once we're over 50, the last thing we want is something quietly draining our health from the inside out, right? And the next food on the list might seem harmless, but it has a devastating effect on your nerves. You don't want to miss this. Food number 8. Cooked potatoes. If you're in the habit of cooking potatoes and storing the leftovers in the fridge, thinking you're doing the right thing, be careful. This could be one of the most dangerous kitchen mistakes, especially for anyone over 60. Cooked potatoes, when stored in the fridge for too long, can develop Clostridium botulinum, a silent, invisible, but extremely toxic bacterium. It's responsible for foodborne botulism, a rare condition, but potentially fatal. And guess who's most vulnerable to it? Seniors, of course, because the immune system no longer reacts as strongly as it used to. But that's not all. When you store cooked potatoes in the fridge, especially if wrapped in plastic or foil with little oxygen, you create the perfect environment for these anaerobic bacteria to grow. And the scariest part, even if you reheat the potato, the toxins already produced may not be fully destroyed. So what can these toxins do? Mental confusion, blurred vision, low blood pressure, and in extreme cases, muscle paralysis. That's right, a poorly stored potato could affect your nerves and your cognition. How to avoid it? Easy. Never keep cooked potatoes for more than 2 days. Try to eat them fresh, the same day they're prepared. And never store them wrapped in foil directly in the fridge. That only increases the risk. Do you see how simple, seemingly harmless habits can become real health traps for older adults? And food number 7 is even more common. It shows up on American plates almost daily. But once it goes into the fridge, it quietly sabotages your gut. Food number 7. Cut onions. Most people never even think about this, but storing half a cut onion in the fridge can be a real trap for your gut, and as a result, for your brain too. Here's why. Onions are highly hygroscopic. That means they easily absorb moisture and microorganisms from the environment. So what happens when you cut an onion and store the other half in the fridge? It starts acting like a sponge, soaking up everything around it, fungi, bacteria, and even toxic substances released by other decaying foods. Now think about it. If your immune system is already weaker due to age, and your gut is the core of that immune system, imagine the damage this can cause. A contaminated onion can silently lead to severe gas, intestinal irritation, inflammation, and even dysbiosis, that imbalance in your gut flora directly linked to fatigue, brain fog, and cognitive decline. And there's more. The gut is often called the second brain. When your gut's not doing well, your memory and energy levels suffer too. That's science. Studies show that changes in gut microbiota are linked to an increased risk of Alzheimer's and depression in older adults. So how do you avoid this? Always use whole onions. If you have leftovers, store them in an airtight glass container and use them within 24 hours, max. Never leave it exposed or wrapped in plastic wrap. And if you notice a darkened tip, a slimy texture, or a strange smell, toss it out. It's just not worth the risk. Because if your gut is inflamed, your immune system takes a hit. And when that happens, you might start feeling unexplained fatigue, recurring aches, and even memory lapses, all because of a poorly stored half onion. And as promised, here comes the most important warning in the video so far. Do you remember that odd feeling when you open the fridge and catch a whiff of mold, but can't tell where it's coming from? Well, food number 6 might be hiding a dangerous fungus linked to brain inflammation and even memory loss. Food number 6, brewed coffee. It may seem harmless. After all, who hasn't left some brewed coffee sitting in the pot, let it cool down, and thought, I'll just reheat it later? But here's a little-known warning. Storing brewed coffee in the fridge can turn it into a slow poison for your liver, gut, and even your brain. Here's why. Once coffee is brewed, it starts oxidizing rapidly. That means its chemical compounds, like chlorogenic acids, begin to break down and can form harmful substances such as ochrolene, which is linked to gut irritation and premature cellular aging. And there's more. Studies show that oxidized coffee, even when stored in sealed containers in the fridge, can stimulate the production of aldehydes, compounds that in excess cause liver inflammation and impair the body's ability to filter out toxins. Now think about it. If your liver isn't working efficiently, toxins build up in your body, your gut gets sluggish, your mind starts sending signals like fatigue, brain fog, irritability. And the worst part, it all happens silently. So that innocent habit of saving the coffee for later can, over time, add more pressure to your immune system, which is already more fragile after age 50. The solution? Always drink coffee fresh. Ideally, brew only what you'll drink right away. If there's any left over, don't keep it for more than an hour, even in the fridge. And never reheat coffee more than once. That only speeds up the oxidation. Want a practical tip? If you like drinking coffee more than once a day, make small batches and avoid saving it for later. It might seem wasteful, but it's cheaper than paying with your health. And if you thought that was surprising, the next food might seem like a healthy choice. But when refrigerated, it becomes the perfect breeding ground for a bacteria linked to severe intestinal infections. Food number 5, peeled boiled eggs. Yes, eggs are excellent sources of protein, biotin, and choline, all vital nutrients for brain, muscle, and immune health as we age. But here's the catch. When you boil and peel eggs, then store them in the fridge, you create an ideal environment for one of the most dangerous bacteria, Listeria monocytogenes. This bacteria is sneaky. According to the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, it can survive and even thrive in cold temperatures, including inside your refrigerator. And for older adults, it's especially dangerous. Listeria can cause anything from severe intestinal infections to cases of meningitis, sepsis, and mental disorientation. One poorly stored egg can trigger a chain of inflammatory damage throughout your body, starting in the gut and reaching your brain and nervous system. And if you already struggle with slow digestion, constipation, or frequent abdominal discomfort, things could quickly go from bad to worse. What's the solution? If you plan to eat a boiled egg within 24 hours, it's fine to store it, but keep the shell on. The shell acts as a natural barrier against contamination. Never store peeled boiled eggs. If you really need to store peeled eggs, wrap them individually in aluminum foil or place them in airtight containers and consume them quickly. But ideally, you should peel and eat them fresh. And if you've made it this far, chances are you truly care about what goes on your plate, and rightfully so. But have you ever wondered if invisible toxins could be affecting your brain and memory? Neuroscientists at Oxford have created a 5-question test that can reveal whether your brain is suffering from the effects of silent toxins and how to reverse it with a simple recipe made from powerful ingredients. The link to this test is pinned in the comments. Watch the video carefully and take it now. It's quick, free, and it might help you understand that some symptoms you thought were just part of aging actually aren't. Now, on to the next food, one that's considered a staple in healthy diets, even recommended by many nutritionists. But when it goes in the fridge, it activates a compound that disrupts hormones and weakens bones, a serious danger if you already deal with osteopenia or arthritis. Food number 4, olive oil. This one might surprise you. Extra virgin olive oil is often seen as a true elixir of longevity. Rich in antioxidants, it fights inflammation, protects the heart, and even supports memory, as shown in multiple studies on the Mediterranean diet. But if, out of habit or by accident, you store olive oil in the fridge, you're destroying the benefits of this liquid gold. Here's why. Olive oil is extremely sensitive to light, heat, and especially to cold. When refrigerated, it begins to crystallize, a process that alters its chemical structure. That breakdown affects essential fatty acids, the very compounds responsible for its anti-inflammatory and brain-protective effects that older adults rely on. And there's more. Constant temperature changes, taking the oil out of the fridge, putting it back, heating it, cause a phenomenon called oxidative rancidity. This produces toxic compounds that can irritate your gut and liver. Even worse, spoiled olive oil doesn't give you obvious warning signs. Its smell and color barely change. But inside, it's turning into a silent inflammation bomb. The result, more joint pain, slower thinking, and a more vulnerable immune system. What should you do? Simple. Store olive oil in dark cabinets, away from direct light, in tightly sealed bottles. Never keep it in the refrigerator. Choose dark glass containers, and ideally use it within 30 days after opening. If you've tried everything to ease joint pain, sharpen your memory, and boost your energy, wait until you see food number 3. It's the most controversial item on the list, found in most American kitchens. And while many people believe refrigerating it is the safer option, it actually speeds up the formation of invisible toxins that affect your brain and kidneys. If you've been paying attention since the start, you already know this is where moldy bread comes in. Food number 3. Bread stored in the refrigerator. This is a mistake almost everyone makes. You see your bread starting to go stale in the fruit basket or pantry and think, I'll just stick it in the fridge to make it last longer. But here's the truth. That doesn't stop mold. In fact, it can make things worse. And the scariest part, bread can be moldy even when you can't see it. The fridge creates a dark, humid environment, the perfect breeding ground for invisible fungi. These fungi release mycotoxins, toxic substances that can harm your liver, kidneys, and especially your brain. For older adults with lower immunity, these toxins can have an even more devastating impact. According to Cornell University, certain species of fungi that grow on refrigerated bread produce toxins linked to neurological damage, cognitive decline, and even severe cases of confusion and memory loss. And here's the worst part: mycotoxins don't die when you toast the bread. That seemingly harmless breakfast toast could actually be slowly and silently poisoning you. So, how do you avoid that? Never store bread in the fridge. Buy smaller portions and keep them in a dry, well-ventilated space. Want to make it last longer? Freeze it. The freezer truly stops mold from growing. And yes, you can still toast it afterward without risk. And if food number 3 surprised you, get ready, because food number 2 will leave you speechless. It's something people with high blood pressure, swelling, or kidney problems eat almost daily. But once it goes in the fridge, it activates a compound that can disrupt your heartbeat and even mess with your deep sleep. #2. Overripe bananas. This one catches a lot of people off guard. Bananas are rich in potassium, magnesium, and tryptophan, a compound known to boost mood and improve sleep quality. They're convenient, delicious, and affordable. But putting overripe bananas in the fridge is one of the worst mistakes you can make. Why? Cold temperatures halt the banana's natural ripening and damage its enzymes. The result? The peel darkens while the inside ripens unevenly and begins to ferment quickly. And here's where the danger starts. Fermentation in very sweet fruits can spike your glucose levels and release ethanol and acetaldehyde, compounds that disrupt gut bacteria and mess with your metabolism. And it gets worse. A fermented banana stored in the fridge is the perfect environment for invisible yeasts and fungi. These microorganisms can lead to symptoms like bloating, gas, low energy, insomnia, and even heart palpitations, especially in older adults with sensitive kidney or liver function. The most insidious part: it still looks like just a ripe banana. You eat it, unaware it's gradually throwing your system off balance. How to fix it? Store bananas at room temperature, ideally hanging and away from other fruits so they don't ripen too fast. If they're very ripe and you won't eat them right away, freeze them and later use them in smoothies or pancakes. But never put bananas in the fridge again. Food number 1. Buckle up, because it's served in nearly every American breakfast, especially by those trying to eat healthy. But in the fridge, it releases a toxin that can speed up skin aging, destroy collagen, and even raise insulin resistance. #1. Cooked oatmeal stored in the fridge. Yes, oatmeal. It's a breakfast staple. It supports digestion, it's fiber, helps control cholesterol, and it keeps you full for hours. But once it's cooked, it becomes a breeding ground for bacteria if not stored correctly. Here's the issue. When you make a bowl of oatmeal, it absorbs water. That moisture, combined with starch released during cooking, creates a sticky layer rich in glucose. And that's exactly what certain bacteria, like Bacillus cereus, love to feed on. According to the CDC, Bacillus cereus is one of the top causes of food poisoning in adults over 60. It can trigger everything from nausea and digestive discomfort to diarrhea and dehydration, which is especially dangerous for anyone dealing with low blood pressure or kidney issues. And don't think, oh, I'll just reheat it later, that'll kill everything. Not necessarily. Some toxins released by these bacteria are heat-resistant and won't go away with reheating. How to avoid it? If you cooked oatmeal and have leftovers, store them in an airtight container and eat within 24 hours. Always aim to prepare fresh, individual portions. And never eat oatmeal that's been sitting in the fridge for more than a day, especially if it smells weird or has a strange texture. Which one of these tips do you think will be hardest to put into practice? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd really love to help you overcome this. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you never miss out on life-changing tips that can truly impact your health as you age. And hey, if you found these tips helpful, you need to watch the video. Japanese Doctor Reveals: The Secret Habit That Made My Patients Live Past 100. In it, I uncover a little-known habit that helped hundreds of seniors live with more independence, mental clarity, and lasting vitality. You'll be surprised by what might be missing from your daily routine. Watch it now. It's the perfect follow-up to what we talked about here.